welcome everyone to RippleMakers, a podcast on the human side of transformation. I am Ranan Bhattacharya, the practice head for change and transformation consulting at MARG. And this is the conversation I have been waiting for long. Just to give you a bit of background, what made us think about this RippleMakers? The industry reports show that even today, 70% of the large-scale transformation programs still miss their stated goals. And that number hasn't moved in 2 decades. Even as the technology has moved forward. And to me, that's not a technology problem. It's a human one. And we are continuously underinvesting in the people side of the change. RippleMakers is where we learn from the leaders who have actually lived through it. And I cannot imagine a better guest to open with than Dr. Tathagat Varma, popularly known as TV to most of us. Tathagat is a C-level executive, R&D scientist, and LinkedIn top voice of 2024. He has over 3 decades of progressive experience building multiple products, scaling P&L operations post 10,000 FTEs, and leading global large teams across geography. He recently completed his PhD from the Indian School of Business on cognitive chasm, a grounded theory of Gen AI adoption. And his third book based on that research is due from World Scientific in August 2026, eagerly waiting for that. And on a personal note, what I find really delightful that he holds the distinction of being the youngest Indian scientist to spend 16 months at the Antarctic station Maitri, which tells you everything about his appetite for the unknown. Tathagat, warm welcome to you in RippleMakers, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Ranan. I'm honored to be on your podcast as the first guest, and always a pleasure to talk to you and learn something from you. So I look forward to our conversation today.
I think it's time to start some serious conversation. And let me start with the first topic, which is related to the transformation readiness of the organization. So, Tathagat, you have been part of multiple global organizations. You have spearheaded various large transformation programs. What does a transformation-ready organization look like from inside?
Sorry. So I will give a metaphorical answer to it, and then I will try to describe it. To me, a transformation-ready organization looks like a philharmonic orchestra. It looks like the team that is performing at Cirque du Soleil, or an Olympic team, for example, or Indian cricket team, for example, or a firefighter team, right? These are the examples of teams from different walks of life. They seem to show up a spectacular show when we see them. But what we don't realize is that they are probably spending 90% of their time away from the limelight, in the background, just practicing, just rehearsing, just going through each and every step of what does it take for them to deliver that kind of a spectacular performance. And organizations are no different. We often think that the organizations will just go into a plug and play mode and they can start delivering a transformation. But what we don't realize is that transformation organizations need to invest in training their people. They need to have the right kind of skills to begin with. They need to instill the right mindset about what is the change all about, how does it impact them, and why is it important for the organization, and what is their role in that. And then they know exactly what is the role, what is the plan, what is the goals, what is the finish line. And there is a coordination. There is somebody who's really helping them at each step. And that is how the organization is kind of marching to the same tune. So that obviously shows the amount of effort it takes for somebody to go through the grind and make sure they are ready for it. And when the day comes, it's not a D-Day, obviously. Transformation is not a single day journey. But I hope you get the point that to me, it is really all about getting the right kind of people, right kind of preparation, right kind of culture, right kind of a mindset, which is what leads to the right team.
Let's move to another topic, which I figured out that during my conversation with quite a few senior leaders in the Varium forums or the conferences, I see that the leaders' life have become quite complicated now due to the difficult expectations from various stakeholders, starting from the expectations from the board members to the CXOs to the team members. There are contradictory priorities of different parts of the organization. And what would you advise a leader today who has just been landed or who has been given the AI mandate to implement in his or her work today?
I think that's a great question. I see a lot of times this is not just a error of commission, but this is an error of omission on the part of the leaders, in the sense that they seem to focus on the tool, the shiny new tool that is AI, and they kind of say that it is like the hammer that I can start hammering all the nails with it. Nothing could be further from the truth that it is really the problem that has to be the action hero of any transformation. AI is just one of the things that is being used to address the issue. So I always tell the leaders, the first thing you want to start is taking not an outside in view of what the AI is really bringing, but more like an inside out view and saying, what is your core organizational identity? What is the business challenges? What is the problem you are solving? That should be amply clear to the leaders, and that should invariably be the first starting point. So I could have, for example, I could be in retail and I could have a inventory problem, or I could have a shrinkage problem. I could be in supply chain, or I could be in logistics or transportation, and I could have a problem with, let us say, on-time performance, or I could have utilization problem. These are real business problems that either reflect about the operational efficiency, or they reflect about the possibility of more top line, bottom line performance. Once we start from there, then we can look at how technology can play a role in finding the right solutions for it. Because any solution, as we know, can have multiple elements to it. There can be human element to it, there could be cultural nuances to it, there could be technological aspects to it. But the mistake I see a lot of leaders make is they start from the technology and then they try to kind of superimpose that on the problem, which really backfires. So I would always say start from what the problem is, what you want things to change, and then look at how technology can play a role in that.
So that takes us to the next topic, which is very close to my heart. And this is related to the changing people and culture, because this is always the hardest part. We have been talking about this for ages. I remember during our initial conversation, Tathagat, during the agile transformation days also, we kept saying the same thing, that how do we change people, change the culture. And definitely the AI amplify this human resistance problems now, right? So from your experience, then how do you advise to address this huge problem?
No, again, that's a very relevant question, Ranan. And I think I will basically segue from the earlier point you mentioned about explaining or articulating it to the people, the rank and file, why are we even doing something? And that's really a missing piece of the puzzle, because in the name of communication, a lot of organizations do a reasonably good job of telling people what is to be done. So these are like marching orders. I call them as marching orders, like do this, do that kind of a thing there. But almost nobody really goes to describe at length, why are we even doing that in the first place? Why is it important? How is it going to change things? What does it mean for you? None of that kind of a two-way conversation happens. So I think, to me, the first and foremost is really to build a communication. I would even change the name. I would not call it as communication. I would call it as engagement strategy, because communication has a connotation of sometimes being seen as a one-way street, whereas an engagement is like everybody is in it together kind of a thing. So I would call it as an engagement strategy, where the organization and the leadership is taking time out to engage with the troops in the trenches, and and basically unpacking why are we even engaging an initiative like that. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I feel is extremely important is the whole idea of co-creation, and the point you talked about, human resistance. Now, what we don't realize is that AI is, while there is an element of AI taking away the jobs, right? Sometimes it is overstated. Sometimes there is an element of truth to that, right? There is always going to be a spectrum in which it's going to have an impact there. But what is important to understand is that Luddism may not be the right response to that. We cannot simply say no technology and we start just smashing the machines or smashing the algorithms in this case. There has to be inevitable need for us to see technology, because that is the basis for advancing the human race. So there, I think that to me is a given. Now the question is, how do we balance between the goals of societal progress versus the human identity and the right to work, right? Because it is in some way it is impeding the right to work because it's taking away the job. My point would be, we need to understand what are the apprehensions people may have around technology, involve them in the conversation and make them as a part of the solution. Allow them, invite them, encourage them, and expect them to be a part of the co-creation of the solution. And the change resistance will melt away like butter. Most of the time, we don't really do that, and communication is an afterthought. Engaging people is never even on the cards. But I think that's exactly the reason why in the last 30-40 years, we have seen 60-70% of the change efforts fail. And they don't fail as in like there is a spectacular crash, but they fail as in the initiatives do not lead to the desired results. The KPIs are never met, and the people go half-hearted. The least we need to do and the least we owe to them is to recognize it and make them as a part of the solution and work with them together, march with them in their own shoes, and see how we can come to a common solution, rather than saying that, hey, these are the 4 people who are the change leaders, change agents, only they know how to build a solution. Let them go and they will tell everyone else how is the change to be done. So that is where I would see that run as a fundamental mindset shift that is required for us to bring the change management more effectively to the workplace.
So now I want to have a little bit of fun. I know these are very thoughtful answers what you have given, but now I want you to face a rapid fire where I won't give you much time to think.
Okay.
And tell me in 1 or 2 words what comes to your mind when I ask these questions.
I'll try.
Are you all set?
Yes, definitely.
Great, let's begin. So the first one I want to hear from you is that one must-have skill for all leaders today.
So I think in the environment, in the era of constant change, my antidote to that is learning. Always be learning. That's how I would look at it.
Learning, awesome. The next one, what is the toughest belief to unlearn?
I think it's kind of a segue from the first one, which is like, I know it.
Awesome. So if I take one word, is the humility, because the I know all ego of the leaders is hurt big time with the AI intervention.
Sure.
Awesome. The third one, little controversial one, is tell me one trend which you feel highly overrated.
Yeah, I think this trend is very interesting because it is stemming from a mistaken belief partly and ignorance partly, which is like AI is smarter than us.
If culture had a smell, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a good one because I know everyone has their favorites. My favorite here would be petrichor, which is, as we know, the smell of rain on parched earth, right?
Finally, a book you are reading.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I will be a little selfish in that one, Ranan. Normally, I would have told about a book from another author, but I'm tempted to do a little bit of a shameless plug about my book because I'm doing the final review of my book. I'm, as you mentioned in the intro, I'm writing this book on theory of cognitive chasm, which is on adoption of generative AI. It came out of my PhD work. I'm in the final stages of doing the proofreading of that book, and it is due for launch in August, and I'm excited for that book.
Me too, definitely. And can't wait to kind of grab the copy of that book in August. So all the best.
Thank you.
So I think, Tathagat, one last question before we close, and it's kind of summarization for all the discussion. So if you have to leave with one piece of advice for every leader listening to this, yes, someone navigating through this journey, so what should be your advice for the next 18 months of transformation?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball. Otherwise, I would be a billionaire. But I would still say that my advice to the leaders would be, number one, embrace the technology, embrace the changes, embrace the artificial intelligence, what is happening. There's no need to be scared of. There's no denying the fact that it is a life-altering innovation happening. We are lucky that we are getting a chance to be on the train. A lot of times, if only I was born 5 years or 10 years or 20 years from now, I would not even be available. I would not even be here to be on that train or on the rocket ship, but I would only be reading about it in the textbook. So number one, actively participate in that. Number two, do a lot of experimentation. Don't fall into or don't give in to the hype about it. What may work for your neighbor, what may work for your competitor may not work for you. So test it yourself and really figure it out. What is the best way of doing it? The third is invest in your people. I am always reminded of John Naisbitt's 1982 book by the title Mega Trends, in which he said, the more things get high-tech, the more we need to get high-touch. And I think it has never been more truer than now. The more things get more algorithmic, AI and everything, and they have a semblance of being intelligent, the more we need to go back to the human beings and really rely on the human intellect, the human wisdom, the human knowledge, and human engagement. So go back to your people, because they are the ones who are really going to show you the way into the future. And the last thing is, don't just be a leader that is sitting in an ivory tower and telling people what to do. Pick up the vibe coding, pick up the vibe working, sit in the trenches, sit with your interns, sit with your apprentices, sit with your junior most employees, and roll up your sleeves and be an active participant in that. Because in this era, the learners are the ones who are going to have an upper hand, not the learned ones. So if you are continuously learning, you will be relevant. Your message will have a louder appeal. It will have a wider appeal. You would be able to understand the issues on the ground much better than a leader who's sitting in a proverbial corner office or in an ivory tower. So those are at least some of the thoughts, Anand, that come to my mind.
Oh, that's a perfect note to end, Tathagat. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, for your candor, and for being the voice of RippleMakers. And I'm sure the listeners have got a few great takeaways, which are the message about focusing on the business problems first, investing on our people, and having the right engagement model to take everyone along. And that will be the mantra in the age of continuous change and transformation. So to everyone listening, if this conversation gave you something useful, share it with one other leader who needs to hear it. We'll be back with another voice soon from the front line of transformation specialists. And until then, keep making ripples. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Anand. Thanks for getting me here.
My pleasure, Tathagat. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.